Hands-on, so this is the Dyson V11 and this is the Dyson Gen5, and today we are going to compare these two vacuums and I'm going to tell you exactly what are the differences between these two vacuums. Now first off, we're going to talk about the performance of these two vacuums. Now with the Gen5, since this is the newest vacuum in Dyson's lineup, with the Gen5 this vacuum has an advertised battery life of 70 minutes, whereas the V11 has an advertised battery life of 60 minutes. However, keep in mind that with these vacuums, the battery life on these vacuums really does vary depending on the motor heads that you are using and also the surfaces that you're cleaning and also the amount of dirt that these vacuums have to clean up. So with all that being said, what I've noticed with the Gen5 is that the software in this vacuum does help it be more efficient. So even though the Gen5 does have, like, let's say, an advertised battery life of 10 minutes longer than the V11, real world use, I have noticed that this vacuum is able to last for much longer than the V11 because the software in this vacuum really does help it be more efficient. But also another performance difference between the Gen5 and the V11 is going to be the suction. With the Gen5, this vacuum has, let's say, double the suction of the V11 while also being significantly quieter. Okay, because right now we're going to do a quick sound test of these two vacuums, and like I mentioned, even though the Gen5 sucks almost twice as hard as the V11, it's also significantly quieter, which is great, especially for apartment use. But we're just going to go ahead and actually give you a sound test right now. So right now, both of these vacuums are set to medium, and here comes the V11. Oops, sorry, I'm a little trigger happy here. Here comes the V11. So that's the V11, and there is that residual sound afterwards. But here comes the Gen5. Here comes the V11 again. There's that residual sound. And here comes the Gen5. So you see, a lot quieter than the V11. But we're actually going to go ahead and switch these over to Eco. All right, here comes Eco. V11. So that's the quietest that you're going to get out of the V11. Here comes the Gen5. A lot quieter than the V11. Here comes the V11 again. Again, that is Eco. Here comes the Gen5. And that's an Eco as well. And finally, we're just going to go ahead and do Boost. Let's just set these up. All right, here comes Boost. That's Boost on the V11, Gen5. The V11. Gen5. So, like you may have just heard, the Gen5 is significantly quieter than the V11 in all three modes, but also the Gen5 does suck twice as much as the V11. But also there are some significant design changes with the Gen5 when compared to the V11. With the Gen5, one of the things that I really like about this vacuum is that there is a power on button, and it simply stays on. And personally, I really like this because if you're trying to get into those awkward crevices and you have to hold your vacuum in a different manner, you're going to be able to do that because as soon as you turn this vacuum on, it stays on. And I know this sounds like a very simple difference, but it's actually a very big difference for me. Whereas with the V11, this vacuum does have a trigger that you have to keep held down. Now, holding this trigger down isn't a lot of work. However, after holding this trigger down for, like, let's say 10 or 15 minutes, maybe longer, it does get very tiring in the forearm. But also, if you are trying to vacuum, and let's say you want to switch arms because your forearm is tired, then your vacuum is going to turn on, and you're going to have to power it back on. Or also, if you're trying to get into those awkward crevices, you might not be able to because you have to keep that trigger down. So for me, the power on button on the Gen 5, it may seem like a small difference, but it's actually a very big difference because it does help make this vacuum more ergonomic than the V11. But also another difference between the Gen 5 and the V11 is that you do have this LCD screen here on the back. And what this LCD screen does is that it tells you the type of dust that you're picking up. Now, obviously, since we're not picking up anything, it's not registering in anything, but more importantly, with the Gen 5, you do have this timer here that tells you how much time there's left on your battery. Whereas with the V11, there is no LCD screen on the back. All you do have are these indicator lights here that tells you roughly how filled your battery is, but it's not giving you a specific readout on the time. And also, and again, like I mentioned earlier, the battery life on these vacuums really does vary depending on which head you're using. Alright, so we've gone over the performance differences between the V11 and Gen 5 themselves, but now we're actually going to talk about the different attachments that you get with these two vacuums because they are a little different. Now, first off, with both of these vacuums, you do get your larger carpet cleaner head, and this carpet cleaner head actually works on both carpets and hardwood floors. However, the carpet cleaner head that you get with the Gen 5 is a little different from the carpet cleaner head that you get from the V11. With the carpet cleaner that comes with the Gen 5, you do have these gates that you can use to adjust the suction of this carpet cleaner head. But also there is a silicone skirt on the back, which does help with overall performance. But personally, I like the silicone skirt because it does help protect your furniture when you're vacuuming. Whereas the carpet cleaner head that comes with the V11 is a lot simpler. There are no gates on the front and there is no silicone skirt on the back. But perhaps the biggest difference between the Gen 5 and the V11 is that with the Gen 5, you do get this fluffy optic tool. Now, this is the head that you want to use to clean your hardwood floors, but more importantly, this head does have a built-in LED, which is going to help you find any dirt or dust that you might not see with the naked eye. And overall, even though this built-in LED is a very simple tool, it is a very useful tool. But both of these vacuums do come included with the same smaller carpet cleaner head, and this is the head that you might want to use either to clean your stairs, to clean your pet's bed, or if you want to do any detail work in your car. And both of these vacuums do come included with the same combination dusting tool, which you can either use without the bristles or you can extend the bristles like so. However, with the V11, you do get this dedicated crevice tool here, whereas with the Gen 5, the crevice tool on this vacuum is a little different. First off, it is stored inside of the long neck attachment, and in order to get to your crevice tool, all you're going to do is just going to press on this red button here, push forward, and now you have your crevice tool with the bristles exposed. Or if you don't want to use these bristles, or if you need to get into a very tight spot, you can always press on these red buttons here and push these back, and now you have your crevice tool here. And to put all of this away, all you got to do is you grab your long neck attachment and you just slide it back in and you're good to go. Whereas with the V11, the long neck attachment here does not have any built-in crevices tool like with the Gen 5. So with all that being said, if you are trying to choose between the Dyson V11 and the Dyson Gen 5, here are the main differences. Now with the Gen 5, this vacuum does have a longer lasting battery life, but more importantly, the software in it makes it a lot more efficient than the V11. Also with the Gen 5, you do have basically double the suction of the V11, but it's also significantly quieter, which is very good for apartment use, or like let's say you're at home and you've got kids or a baby. This vacuum is going to be significantly quieter than the V11. But also from a design standpoint, one of the things that I really like about the Gen 5 is going to be just how you power this vacuum on. There is a power on button, and once it's on, this vacuum stays on. Whereas with the V11, you have to keep that trigger held down, which can get a little tiresome after a while. But also with the Gen 5, you do have this built-in screen, which is going to tell you the type of dust that you're picking up. But more importantly, it does give you an estimate about how much battery life you have left. But also when it comes to the attachments, both the V11 and Gen 5 come included with a carpet cleaner head, but the carpet cleaner head that comes included with the Gen 5 is slightly upgraded because because you can adjust the suction and there is a silicone skirt on the back, which does help with overall performance. But I like it because it does help protect your furniture. But also the Gen 5 does come included with the fluffy optic tool, and this is the head that you want to use to clean your hardwood floors, and it does have that built-in LED, which is going to help you find any dirt or dust that you might have missed. Overall, personally, I really do feel that springing for the Gen 5 is definitely worth it over the V11.